Welcome to The Know, I'm Mica Burton.
And I'm Ellis.
Thanks to some big E3 crossplay announcements for games like Rocket League and Minecraft, we might be one step closer to the glorious open future, where all console players can play with their friends in peace and harmony, regardless of platform, before the Fire Nation attacks.
Or, well, it would be if it wasn't for one company totally gumming up the works. That's because Sony is pumping the brakes on crossplay for a number of games, despite saying they'd be willing to give it a go in the past.
And while the games they're blocking at the moment may seem like small potatoes, it could spell problems for the bigger potatoes coming in the future that are also gunning for crossplay, like Red Dead Redemption 2 and Destiny 2, but more on that later.
But first, let's give a little background. Gamers noticed last week that PlayStation was curiously absent from Microsoft's announcement that they were planning on unifying the entire Minecraft community to let people on Xbox, Switch, PC, and mobile versions of the game all play together.
Later in the week at Nintendo's E3 Spotlight, Psyonix similarly announced a Switch version of Rocket League, which the company said will support multiplayer action across Switch, PC, Xbox One, and Mac.
And now Psyonix and others are pointing the finger at Sony for why crossplay won't be coming to the PlayStation platform. According to Psyonix VP Jeremy Dunham in a recent interview with VentureBeat, technically I could make a phone call to Psyonix right now and PS4 crossplay would be up and running before you left the room. The problem is the political barrier that prevents it from happening.
Dunham went on to say that it's going to have to be up to the community to get Sony to listen, because right now they're not playing ball.
For Sony's part, the company has a one-word excuse for why it doesn't allow crossplay. Children! And they've been using that as their defense since the issue came up at E3.
In an interview with Eurogamer, Jim Ryan, head of global sales and marketing for PlayStation, said that Sony blocks crossplay to protect kids. He said, "We have a contract with the people who go online with us, that we look after them and they are within the PlayStation curated universe. Exposing what in many cases are children to external influences we have no ability to manage or look after is something we have to think about very carefully."
And if you're thinking, that kinda sounds like bullshit, you'd be right. Because in the past, Sony has been okay with crossplay in certain games. In fact, Sony basically introduced crossplay with PCs in the PlayStation 2 for the MMO Final Fantasy XI back in 2002. Oh, and Xbox 360 players joined the same server a few years back in a big old orgy of crossplay.
More recently, Sony has allowed PC crossplay in Final Fantasy XIV and the, super duper kid-friendly game Street Fighter V. And coming up soon, the recently released PS Plus title Disc Jam's developer said that the games will soon be, you guessed it, cross-playable between PS4 and PC.
Meanwhile, no company is more kid-friendly than Nintendo, and even it allows crossplay on games like Rocket League and Minecraft for the Switch.
Fortunately, other companies have started calling Sony out on its crossplay bullshit. Xbox boss Phil Spencer seemed particularly annoyed with Ryan's implication that Microsoft isn't looking out for children's safety.
Spencer told Giant Bomb, "We take the safety of Xbox Live, our players across all of our platforms, inside of Minecraft, obviously an incredible important part of that. It's incredibly important to our team. We would never put Minecraft in a place where we felt like we weren't keeping our players safe."
He went on to say that the implication that crossplay doesn't keep players safe isn't healthy for anyone.
Meanwhile, Psyonix disputed Sony's comments about kids' safety. In an interview with VentureBeat Studio Vice President Jeremy Dunham said, "I understand Sony's stance, we want to take care of our players, but from our perspective, if Sony already allows cross-network with PC, which is the least regulated of any of the partners, then in theory having Xbox and Switch in there should be fine."
There's also the issue of security. Sony has, after all, suffered a couple of big attacks in recent years, so maybe it's trying to limit the number of entry points into its system. It makes sense they'd be a little bit gun-shy about interfacing with other platforms, especially given how massive those hacks were and just how badly they hurt the company.
The Sony Pictures hack, for instance, aired a lot of bad laundry about the behind-the-scenes goings-on of their film business in a way that was pretty embarrassing, and the PSN hack a few years back cost the company hundreds of millions of dollars.
On that issue, Dunham had some thoughts as well, mainly that Xbox has better security in the first place. He said, "Xbox has the highest security of any of the platforms. If we can pass that, we can pass any of the other security protocols."
Ultimately, Dunham said that if gamers want to cross-play between all the platforms in games like Rocket League, they need to make their voices heard. He said the problem is more political than anything else.
The thing is, these political barriers could affect other bigger games in the future. Comicbook.com is reporting this week that multiple sources have informed them that Rockstar is gunning hard for crossplay in their upcoming game Red Dead Redemption 2, which would be a really big deal if that happened, but it's not likely given the way Sony's already treating some of these other smaller potatoes.
And that wouldn't be the only future game affected. In our talk with Bungie's Deej about Destiny 2 at E3 last week, he hinted that PC save transfers and crossplay are things the company would like, but it's not necessarily up to them.
It's definitely something that we have talked about a great deal. You know, I certainly want to be able to mix it up with every segment of our community. It's something that we would love to do someday. It's obviously not a decision that we can make all on our own. It involves other people, and we're starting to have those conversations with them to see if they'd be open to something like that in the future.
But again, given the current climate and Sony's position, that doesn't seem like something you should bet on. Because from Sony's standpoint, there's not really much of a reason for them to open up their ecosystem to everybody else. They're in first place by a massive lead, and from their point of view, there's nothing but downside.
In the end, it's going to have to be up to gamers, which is what Psyonic's Jeremy Dunham has been saying this week. If gamers make a big enough stink about it, and the community makes their preferences known, Sony might not have any choice but to bring crossplay to their platform as well.
So what do you guys think of Sony's anti-crossplay stance and their weird children are ruining everything bullshit reasoning? Let us know in the comments.
For future updates on how Sony's cock-blocking crossplay, remember to like this video and subscribe to the know that they were unifying the entire Minecraft to let people on Xbox, Switch, and PC and mobile play the game crossplay with PCs and PlayStation. It
makes sense that they'd be a little bit gushy. For
future updates on how Sony's cock-blocking cross